All right, here we go. Sports Bit betting insight today, Monday, June 25th. Paulie and Teddy. I'm at Real Sports Bit. He's at Teddy_covers. Give us a follow. We always retweet the shows and the links and be part of the chat as well. Tampa Bay Buccaneers team preview today. We'll get to Cleveland and St. Louis and MLB. Shot clock as well. Play of the day before we get out of here, and updates on the soccer. Both games at half. Saudi Arabia, Egypt 1-1. Uruguay leads Russia 2-0 at the half. Russia a man down, and Uruguay going to win that group and advance unless it's a catastrophic meltdown here. Suarez with the goal 10, 11 minutes in. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Vicious beats over the weekend. How about Sweden and Germany? Draw was plus 350, under 2.5. Germany scores in the final seconds, a man down. They win, it goes over, no draw plus 350. Germany's still alive with that goal in the final seconds. Incredible performance by Germany, a man down.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about draw bettors. I mean, draw bettors are a particular type to begin with. But when you're taking a beat like that, that's absolutely brutal. From a total standpoint, however, this is what we've been talking about. We're going to talk about it again in the next game with Mexico-Korea. Also, a game that went over in extra time at the end of the game. That's what we were talking about last week. We talked about the bias towards over. There were two things. There were the extra penalty kicks, and that was the more extra time. They're doing a better job at keeping the extra time at the end of games when teams are tired. We saw the 95th minute goal. Yeah, that's tough off a free kick for anyone that had Sweden, the draw, or the under.
Yeah, the added time goals in this tournament have been nuts, and a lot of them have affected the totals, or like the Brazil game, they got their minus the goal and a half. Here's another one. Mexico, South Korea under 2.5, 2-1 Mexico. The goal in the 93rd minute for South Korea. Those are a couple tough beats. Bad for the books. Colombia against Poland. 3-0 Colombia. A ton of money locally. MGM properties in Vegas. Station casinos, they went off $1.05 favorite. They win all three goals after the 40th minute. They stay alive. Poland, top 10 in the FIFA rankings. They're done. They're 0-2. They can't advance. They're done.
Yeah, if you've been betting the FIFA rankings, you haven't done particularly well in this World Cup. FIFA rankings, not something that bettors take seriously. It's not something that anyone takes seriously, except for perhaps FIFA themselves. But when we talk about the handle for the World Cup, certainly here in Las Vegas, not what it was 4 years ago when the U.S. was in. I've heard reports from multiple bookmakers around town. Globally, there's nothing bigger than World Cup. Here in Vegas, World Cup, it's been a little blip, but it hasn't been a significant handle generator for many of the sports books in town.
All right, interesting. Very big at William Hill. William Hill's crushing it, and all that Mexico money. Nick Bogdanovich said we get more Mexico money here than USA money. How about that? Reds plus 140 down to 120. Beat the Cubs 8-6. Swept them in a 4-game series. Red Sox 235 up to 260. Sale shuts out the Mariners. 7 innings, 13 strikeouts. And here's your $3 favorites. Big steam. Astros 340 up to 370. They beat Kansas City 11-3. Cole 5 innings got the win. And the Braves $1.75 up to 195. They avoid the sweep. Beat the Orioles 7-3.
Yeah, let's highlight Cincinnati for a minute, because certainly the Reds, A, took a bunch of money, slapped the books around yesterday. B, pounded Chicago over the weekend. That's the first 4-game sweep over the Cubs for Cincinnati since 1983. These are divisional rivals. And it hasn't happened for Cincy in, the last 35 years. So impressive series for the Reds. They've been real moneymakers for their backers over the course of the last couple of weeks. And you talked about those big chalks. The books can't do anything when it comes to the $2 favorites, the $3 favorites, etc. When they win, they get all their profits. When they lose, both Boston with Sale and the Astros with Cole took a ton of money yesterday. Both cashed. Regular bets, run lines, alternative run lines, however you wanted to bet them. Boston and Houston took the money and got the money. Bad result for many bookmakers here in Vegas.
Dodgers are hot. They win again. Beat the Mets. Mets, remember when they were 11-1? Wow, what a horror show now as they continue to lose. Dodgers hit 7 solo home runs, tying a record. How about that performance?
Yeah, and they didn't cover on the run line, which made me nuts. I had the Dodgers on the run line yesterday. They hit 7 home runs, okay? They blew 2 multi-run leads against a team that couldn't hit, 3 leads overall in that game, and finally win on another solo shot. Look, when my team hits 7 home runs, I'm supposed to cash my run line bet, especially when it comes against a Mets team that's, 20-42, their last 62 ball games. LA opened up the game with back-to-back jacks. 11 innings, 8-7 final. Didn't get the money. Frustrating result for anyone who had the Dodgers on the run line, like I did.
All right, here we go. Big game breakdown thanks to Intertop Sportsbook. 22 years online. Sign up, deposit, and win over 4,000 daily wagers. Indians hit the road, take on the Cardinals. Clevenger's $1.30 on the road. They've won 7 in a row. It's now, well, if it wasn't, let's call it. It's over. 8-game lead in the division. Detroit's lost 5 in a row. Twins 6 games under 500. This is the Cleveland team we all know and love. Bauer was $3 the other day. They got healthy against the White Sox and some bad teams, the Twins as well. St. Louis, 4 games above 500 in third place in the Central. They're on a 5-8 run, and it's only a game and a half out of the wild card, as there's so many competitive teams there. But the Nationals are struggling. Dodgers are starting to play good ball. Phillies are surprising a lot of people. They're now in second place in the East. See what the Cardinals do at the deadline. St. Louis starts a 6-game homestand tonight, and as you mentioned, though, as I mentioned with the Indians, 10 games over 500, but they continue to burn money as they're still negative ROI.
Yeah, I mean, it really is an interesting game to talk about because here's a St. Louis team. They've been slumping, 5-8 their last 13. They did get the win yesterday. They've been questioning whether Matheny's job is in jeopardy. But yet, as you mentioned, only a game and a half out of the wild card spot. Now, the 4 teams ahead of them in that wild card race are all spenders. The Nats, the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Cubs are all going to be buyers at the deadline. So we talk about what St. Louis is going to do over the course of the next month. If they get slapped around here, they might not be buyers. If they don't, if they're still in contention as we head into the All-Star break and beyond, maybe this team ends up adding some pieces instead of subtracting some. And, of course, you have to wonder, the division leaders in the National League, Milwaukee, Arizona, Atlanta, are those 3 teams going to last at the top? Certainly, it's a St. Louis team that, hey, they've got some hot bats going. I mean, they really have in a couple of different places. But certainly, you talk about Yadier Molina hitting a couple of bombs yesterday. Marcell Ozuna, Jose Martinez are a combined .331 in June with 12 dingers and 31 RBIs. They've been hitting the ball, and certainly we talk about Clevenger. I mean, the guy eats up innings, no question about it. He's thrown 100-plus pitches in each of his last 10 starts, Paulie. But
Good.
I don't love the spot here for Cleveland. I don't. They're 10 games over 500 and still, as you mentioned, 5 units down for the season. I mean, they had a kid named Plutko as minus 160 yesterday, and it should have been higher. They're a losing team on the road, and off that monster homestand, where they close out with 7 straight wins, all over either slumping or bottom feeder teams. I'm not in a rush to lay a price with the Tribe on the highway this evening.
It's out of control. The markets love Carrasco. It seems they always take money. Kluber's always priced big time. And now you see what they were against bad teams. That's only, what's it going to be like in August and September when they need wins and they're playing the god-awful Royals and the White Sox? Forget about it.
Yeah, and there are issues with St. Louis as well. Certainly you talk about John Gant. He's a guy who hasn't been able to last twice through any lineup. In any previous spot start this season, the Cards bullpen behind him, I mean, an argument that's been as misused as any in baseball. And this is Gant's start where either he's going to cement the job or he's going to get bounced. There were a couple of guys, they have Dakota Hudson, who's 10-2 with AAA Memphis. They have Daniel Ponce de Leon, who are, lurking in the wings should John Gant get lit up again today. I'm not convinced that Gant's going to throw a gem. We'll talk about this game a little bit more when it comes to play of the daytime.
All right. ROI, Cleveland's 18th, down 560. St. Louis is 20th, down 576. Top and bottom ROI in the middle of the pack in Major League Baseball. Deep dive, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 6.5's the total. And last year, 5-11 straight up, 6-9-1 ATS, 8-8 with the totals, -1 turnover differential. That was 16th. The Westgate took them off the board, decided what they're going to do with Winston. I don't know if it makes much of a difference because they went, 3-10 with him last year and went 2-1 without him with Fitzpatrick. He's expected to be suspended. The first second-round pick. They were 30th in special teams.
Yeah, I mean, look, when we talk about Tampa right now, and this team was lined at 6.5 wins, it's off the board at most places right now until Winston's status is resolved. I don't expect it, even if Winston gets cut. I don't think it's going to move that much. Maybe a 6, maybe a 5.5. And I don't think Winston's going to get cut. I think they have to give Jameis Winston a chance to redeem himself in Tampa. Really simple. They've invested too much into the guy to start from scratch right now. And they were talking about the number 1 overall pick in 2015, a guy who came into the league with a reputation for some less than intelligent decisions that he made as a college kid.
Yeah.
Not the only student athlete to make poor decisions in college. I did, Paulie, you did. Most of the guys I know did at various times. I don't blame you
wait
for
a second. I've not been accused of sexual assault twice. Come on.
That is correct. Yeah. All I'm saying is that we all made some poor decisions in college. What we've seen in the NFL from Jameis Winston is signs. We've seen promise. We haven't seen consistent results, and we haven't seen a winning record. This team's it's a team option, $20.9 million in 2019. It's guaranteed for injury only. So they can cut him without penalty at the end of this season. 3 years, 45 starts. The guy's 69-44 touchdown to interception ratio, and 87.2 passer rating. He has decent numbers. They're not ridiculously bad numbers. The off-field issues have overwhelmed his on-field issues. And of course, when you talk about a quarterback who's on the hot seat, it's a head coach who's on the hot seat too, in terms of Dirk Cutter. If John Gruden had decided he wanted to stay home and coach in Tampa, Cutter would already be gone. But it's a contract year for the coach. It's a contract year for the quarterback. It's a contract year for the GM, Jason Licht, in his 5th year. This is the type of situation that is very, very fluid. And it's one of the reasons that even though I like Tampa Bay in some regards, I'm not going to bet them over the total, because if things go south, everybody's going to quit and this team's going to fall apart.
I can't believe they brought him back. A horrible season last year, 5-11, couldn't stop anybody. Not to mention you sent 3 teams from this division in the playoffs. That could happen again. Carolina won 11 games. Atlanta made the playoffs, won a game. And then you had the success that the Saints had as well. Couldn't run the ball either. Doug Martin's gone. They take Jones in the draft, the kid out of USC. They also have Quids Rogers. But the other thing why it hurts Winston, if you watched Hard Knocks, Cutter is screaming at him in every practice. They're playing that preseason game against Miami. He throws the ball up for grabs. Cutter's screaming at him. Horrible decisions, bad interceptions. That never changed if you watch Hard Knocks. That hasn't changed his whole career so far in Tampa Bay. So we'll see if they can fix that. I doubt it. But also, you're in a tough division, Teddy, and they have to get off to a hot start. And they have a couple early games out of the gate, see if they can win. That's the other thing. They don't have Winston the first 3 games likely. The first 3 games are brutal. You're taking on Pittsburgh, New Orleans. They're looking at an 0-3.
Yeah, I mean, the power rating differential between Fitzpatrick and Winston, a point to the point spread. I mean, it's not a significant difference in the betting markets between those QBs. So, I mean, it's certainly not a good scenario for Tampa to be without their quarterback for the first 3 games. But if you're going to have a backup, if you got a veteran coming right out of training camp like Fitzpatrick before he gets beat up, you got a fighting chance. When you talk about the off season for Tampa, they made some moves that I like. Most importantly, shoring up the offensive and defensive lines. You talked about last year they couldn't run the football. Hey, they signed Ryan Jensen from Baltimore to man the center of that offensive line. Now, Ollie Marpet can slide back over to guard. That, I think, should help them on the offensive line. Certainly Jensen, an impact player in that regard. They re-signed tight end Cameron Brate, one of the favorite targets and a solid blocker. They brought back Mike Evans. But most importantly than anything, complete overhaul of that defensive line. Jason Pierre-Paul, JPP coming in on the draft day deal. Vinnie Curry, Bo Allen, Mitch Unrein, all coming in to solve a unit that was, let's be honest, it was pretty nasty. It was a disaster a season ago. The money and draft picks and, the capital they gave up to get Pierre-Paul and to make these moves was significant. It was win now type of stuff for Tampa. That's where this squad was a couple of months ago. And you look at that draft, as you mentioned, Vita Vea from Washington. And I know the guys didn't like him getting picked number 12 overall. He's a beast in the middle. You're not going to run on this guy. You talk about M.J. Stewart and Carlton Davis, a couple of cornerbacks picked in the second round for Tampa that together are expected to make this defense at least a little bit better than it was a season ago when, frankly, Paulie, this defense was an absolute sieve.
Yep, and there's a schedule at New Orleans to start, Philly at home, Pittsburgh at home, then they hit the road against the Bears. If they win, they hope they can win that game because then it's the bye week. Then they take on Atlanta. It could be 1-4 or 0-5 to start. There's no way I can go over here. It's in a tough division. 3 teams made the playoffs from this division, as I mentioned. It's funny. They were the Cats Meow a couple of years ago. They almost made the playoffs, and they went 9-7 because the defense was so good down the stretch when they closed 6-2. Everything went wrong last year.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the back end of the schedule, okay, I know it's tough early. You look at the back end. Cleveland, at Cincy, at Carolina, Washington at home, at the Giants, San Fran at home, Carolina at home, New Orleans at home, at Baltimore, at Dallas, Atlanta. There's not a team there they can't beat on a good day. Even if they get off to a rough start. There's hope for Tampa. But look, this isn't a squad that I'm going to bet over. There's a lot of things I like about the Bucs, legitimately, but I'm not going to bet them over the win total simply because if things go south early, and you talked about that rough start, if they're 0-3, 0-4, now everybody's on the clock. GM sending out resumes. Cutter may be gone. Winston could be gone. The slow start has the potential to really kill this team. And while their schedule eases up down the stretch, and if they survive that start, they could be a playoff contender. From a betting standpoint, I'm not going to get there with the Bucs over the total.
All right. Shot clock time. What do you want to do with Winston? I know one columnist said they should cut him. I don't think there's much hope. He struggled, not to mention all the off-the-field incidents. The problem is you can't trade him. You can't get anything for him, so I think you have to ride it out. But it's just as a quarterback on the field, the decision-making, the horrible interceptions, and it's not like this guy's surrounded by weapons, too. That's why it's so frustrating. He's got guys to throw to. They gave Evans a ton of money, and it hasn't worked out offensively, and they continue to struggle. So what are you going to do? If you're going to you're going to be hard to cut him because like you said, you have so much invested in him, but you can't trade him and get anything for him because his stock's low with the off-the-field incidents. And who knows? There's supposed to be a 6-game suspension. So as Mike Florio said from Pro Football Talk, it appears there was some back and forth and a negotiation to get to 3. So if every screws up again, who knows how long that suspension will be.
Jameis Winston is a former number 1 overall pick. Now, I've seen top draft choices crash and burn. Certainly Jamarcus Russell, Ryan Leaf almost went number 1. Akili Smith almost went number 1. There have been plenty of QBs that have crashed and burned despite being top draft choices. And NFL talent evaluators, we all know the story. Sometimes they're right. Sometimes they're wrong. Oftentimes they're wrong. Oftentimes they're really wrong. But Jameis Winston has can't-miss tools. He's shown enough in his first 3 years. This guy's got talent. I wouldn't cut him. I'd say, I'm going to get this guy as my franchise QB. You win a couple of games, you re-sign him. Tampa will be worse without Winston than they will be with him. And the off-field stuff is stupid. Players tend to smarten up after they've had a couple of incidents at the NFL level. I think Winston smartens up here. We won't hear a thing anymore about uber groping allegations from Jameis Winston down the road. I think he's going to be a good quarterback for Tampa or somebody else before his career is done.
All right. Maybe 6 times he screwed up. Maybe he'll finally get it. Interesting take. All right. Check the chat. What do we have? Apologize for the technical issues and the confusion earlier.
Yeah, it happens, dude. The camera was on me even when you were talking. That makes for great... Actually, no. It'd be better if you were talking. It makes for bad video. Matt Harvey went to the Reds, and they started winning. Dom Ricci, what do you think of Harvey with Cincinnati, and all of a sudden the Reds getting hot, Paulie? Anything on that?
You believe that? I'm stunned. He won 7 in a row. Crazy.
Yeah, and he's talking about the trends this season have been so profitable. Talk about the Yankees, 17 of the last 18 to the under. We talked about here on the show. Is there a time we have to report it if I read where a ticket pays 300 to 1? Thanks. I'm not sure what the question is there, Andrew. You're the Dodgers -1. Ken, good job. You at least came away with a push in that ball game. Anything on the College World Series, Paulie? Arkansas +85
yes, I
for
love
Brian
Arkansas. That's crazy. That line's crazy today. Arkansas is 2-1 plus $2. Whatever that kid's name is, Heimlich, whatever his name is, he got roughed up the first start in the College World Series. Oregon State can't beat 240. I give them credit for getting off the mat. They lost their first game and then got hot. But they can't. You can't be laying 240 in a College World Series game, best of 3 now that we're in the finals. I think, yeah, that line's out of whack.
We've got a non-101. I'm not going to try to reach all of it, but talking about Winston, I cut him the first day, the first hour I could. This is about more than sports. This is a life lesson. Respect others, especially women, period. I don't disagree with that as a concept, but NFL's a business. Tampa's got to sell tickets. They go 4-12 this year. They're not going to sell a ton of tickets. As a business decision, I think it's a bad decision for them to cut him.
Well, you could take the other side. Who's going to show up to support him after what he's done? That's a hard sell. After all his problems. They know he went to Florida State. They know the whole laundry list of what he's done. Money time, play of the day. 9-2-1, 9-2-2 over. Cleveland, St. Louis, over 8.5. Be a lot of runs scored in this one. We saw the numbers with the St. Louis offense. Let's go over the total. That one. Soccer, rest of the week. Going to be a lot of fun. We'll finish out. We get the Arizona Cardinals tomorrow. And 4 games a day now. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 1-1 Saudi Arabia and Egypt. And 2-0 Uruguay. 60th minute against Russia. But barring a collapse, they're going to win Group A. They will play the Group B runner-up June 30th. So last week, go on vacation. And when we come back, August 1st, football is here. August 2nd is a Hall of Fame game, Bears and the Ravens. So we'll finish it out with soccer and football. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Sports Pit, Betting Insight today, SBR Picks, at Real Sports Pit, at Teddy_covers. Thanks for watching.